Aloha, namaste. This is Radha, and I'm here to talk about our Mercury retrograde, which has begun today on the 5th of August. And I've spoken about it a lot. I did a video called Mercury in Leo. And so just talked about how Mercury is functioning in Leo, how we have this quality of sort of maybe overpowering others with our words, really saying things before we know completely what we're talking about, and coming into that leadership role through our thoughts and ideas, and of course, the words that come from that. And so today, I just really want to reflect upon the retrograde itself. This day, this Monday, we had not just the retrograde motion begin of Mercury, which is, of course, an apparent motion, right? The planets don't actually start moving backwards. It's just our relativity here on Earth to these orbs that are in space. And we have our speed is faster than Mercury's speed. So it appears as though Mercury is going backwards. And of course, the moon and Venus are also tightly conjunct today and joined Mercury. And so we have a lot of energy in this place of Leo, and a lot of energy, particularly with connective planets, excuse me, our connective grahas that want to relate and get along. And yet the method seems to be to overpower or overcome. And so in our retrograde cycle, we're going to be looking at the ways in which we do this, the ways in which we speak before we think, or we think we know more than we do, and share in a way that is authoritative, when in fact, maybe we're not an authority on that subject after all. This isn't necessarily always a bad thing, but it's something to reflect upon, because ultimately we're not here to impress others or to get followers. We're here to be on a path, and our path needs to be closer to truth. And so these retrograde cycles with all of the planets, but particularly with Mercury, allows us to really reflect upon the ways in which our process of thinking and kind of taking in information has been working. How do we know what is true? And how do we determine what to speak as truth to other people? And also, how does our organization work, and how are we functioning in this world of information and this world of technology? And of course, there's a lot of frustrations along the way. A lot of things back up, go backwards, or feel really, stuck. And this can be a challenge as we navigate the energies. So I wanted to bring in somebody I haven't brought in several years, but the last time I brought her in was indeed a Mercury retrograde in Leo, I believe. And there's a very good reason for that. And that is because she has this very lioness power about her. And this is the goddess Bagalamukhi. She's one of the Das Mahavidyas, one of the 10 wisdom goddesses. And the 10 wisdom goddesses, for those of you that know, or don't know, excuse me, if you already know, then this might be repeat information, are kind of broken up into those who have a bit more of this ugra or terrible energy, and those who are a little bit more gentle and soft. And Bagalamukhi is considered one of the ugra, but she's also considered incredibly beautiful. And so she uses this beauty to stun and to paralyze. And she's known for her capacity to stop speech or even action that comes from our thoughts, and has this quality, this ability of stambhava, which is to stun or paralyze. And we can think of this in terms of like our opponent or somebody that we're up against. But truthfully, our opponents and what we're up against is our ego, right? Our own mind chatter, our own, this is what we have to do, or this is what I need to do next. That part of us that is always running and keeps manifesting more things for ourselves to do is what we're truly up against. And so when we can harness the power, the Shakti that Bagalamukhi gives us, grants us really, then we can slow down or stop in our tracks and say, oh, okay, wait, where am I going with this? What am I doing exactly? And are all the things that I think are true predicated on actual facts, or am I spewing things without knowing what I'm talking about? It is my mode of communicating effective, or am I kind of overpowering people and getting bossy? And this issue really does have to do with the fact that Venus is here too, because Venus is that relational planet, and Venus in Leo can be very domineering in relationships. We can have a very hard time taking leadership from others and really want to step into that role ourselves and be followed. And as I mentioned in my new moon video, the thing about transits is everyone's going through them. We're all experiencing it at the same time. So it's not simple as one person has Venus in Leo and the other person, maybe they choose a partner or somebody to work with who's a little bit more submissive. This is like everyone's like in that Leo energy. And it's not the sun, right? Despite the best workings of Western astrology, the sun isn't in Leo yet. So our true source of power, where we really stand in Leo, is not happening yet. These are relational planets, and they don't do as well in Leo. So there's a really big difference between what planet is where. And that's something that I see people get really confused with, particularly people who've been following Western astrology. But everybody really attaches to the signs, and it's just like, this sign is good or this sign is bad, without recognizing that it's what planet is in the sign and how it operates there. And Mercury and Venus don't operate that well in Leo. They just don't. They're relational planets that have to do with compromise and have to do with a flexibility in the case of Mercury. And we just don't have that flexibility in the stubborn and leadership-oriented sign of Leo. And so we call upon this energy, or I'm calling upon this energy of Bagalamukhi and inviting you to join me with that. Bagala is like a rope or a bridle, and Mukhi, many of you know, is face. And her face can literally like rope us or bridle us to stop. And in the story of Bagalamukhi, there is a demon, as many of the stories have, where he just won't stop talking. His name is Madan, and he's been given this boon that is anything he says manifests. So he goes around blah, 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 blahing all day long, and things keep popping up, and he's manifested all the mansions, all the palaces, all the stuff he could possibly need, all the, servants and mistresses and everything that he wants to have. And it's starting to get crowded and chaotic. And so the gods all, do their thing. Like, oh no, he has this boon. No one can stop him. What are we going to do? And then they sit around this beautiful lake and pray. And they pray to the goddess. Please help us. Please come and save us. And this is how the goddess always comes out in the stories. She's called. She must be called. She is matter. So her name or her image or her bij syllable has to be brought into the material reality for us to experience her. And so the lake begins to turn this beautiful yellow color, the color of turmeric, and bubbling out through the center of the lake comes a figure, a form. And it's this incredibly effulgent woman, just radiating the light of 1,000 suns. She's dressed all in yellow. She has golden ornaments all over her and yellow flowers. And she has this beautiful face that can stop time itself. So she comes up out of this lake, and she has a club, and she's sent off on this mission. Please, please help us. Can you please help us stop this demon? And she goes and she finds the demon, and he's blah, 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 blah. I mean, he can't even stop himself. The truth is, he wants to stop at this point. He's tired of blabbing everything and making everything. Just like the stories in our head, the egos in our head they're ready to stop. We want to stop the patterns that we're in. We want to stop the cycles that we keep repeating, but it's hard. And that's why we ask for help. And so she grabs him by the tongue, right? And he stops. And then she takes her club and she's going to hit him. And he drops to his knees and he begs her, please, please, take me with you. And she says, huh? And he says, I want to be with you. I want to always be with you. And so she agrees to always have him with her. And so whenever Bagalamukhi is pictured, she has the demon Madan holding his tongue next to her. And this is a really powerful image for us to embrace and to embody, because each of us has this potential or this possibility to be mid-sentence or mid whatever, and just be like, stop, And when we don't do it, something else often does, right? Often something goes wrong in the world or in our little universe, however that looks, and we're not able to do the thing that we think we're supposed to be doing in that moment. And so we have an opportunity to just stop. So when we work with Bagala, we can picture her on this golden throne with her flowers and her bright, brilliant yellow robes, just the shining face of beauty. And then we can also picture that in her left hand, she holds this tongue attached to this demon, who could very well be a part of ourself, and that she's holding her club ready to strike. Bagala has the final word. So when we are really in tune with spirit and we're not just blah, 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 blahing from our ego place, our words can have power and meaning. We might say the final sentence in an argument or in a important situation, maybe it's a business meeting, maybe it's a relational conversation, maybe it's to an audience or to a crowd. But that final word that can stop everything. She gives us the power of opposites. So she gives us this power to turn something like ignorance into wisdom, constant yammering into silence, this opportunity to take a moment and say, oh yeah, I can just meditate right now. I can literally just stop, close my eyes and breathe for even 1 minute and stop this incessant flow in my mind. And she gives us a power to really overcome the train we're riding. Her bij syllable, her mantra is Hrim, which is very similar to the Durga syllable, which is also the seed syllable for several of the other Das Mahavidyas, which is Hrim. This has an L sound between the H and the R, so it's Hrim. And it's so simple. You can just sit with that. Hrim, Hrim, Hrim. Ah, I can just pause. I can just rest in this moment. I don't need to know. I don't need to be the leader of this conversation. I can listen, which is one of our biggest retrograde lessons, right? Mercury retrograde, listening, learning to listen, learning to learn, learning to watch and observe what's happening around us so that we can make choices and decisions from this really educated place instead of being the first one out the gate with our banner up. Sometimes the first person does get, what do they say? Like the early bird gets the worm. That's true. Sometimes they do get the worm, but they also often make all the mistakes, right? And create a lot of the chaos. And the people who sit back and wait and take their time and move a little slower are sometimes able to refine. And when they move forward, it's not quite the same blah as it can be. And so we all have this opportunity right now in the retrograde to really look at this and look at the ways that we operate, because we each do it very differently. I have a forecast I do every week. I write up the weekly report for everyone to see as my offering, my gift. And then I have a forecast for my member group. That's each sign, because each of us, it's very different. If you're a Leo rising, this is on your rising sign. If you're a Virgo or a Gemini, Mercury's your ruling planet. And when he goes retrograde, a lot of your identity gets wrapped up in that. And so it's really important to understand what is retrograding for you and in what area of your life it's happening. This is super important. So if you'd like to look at that, you can go to patreon.com, Radha Home Astrology. You can go to my Radha Home Astrology website where I have my readings, my offerings, just come up with, I felt inspired to do a new kind of quickie reading. I have quickie compatibility readings between two people. And now I have quickie muhurta readings. They're called mini muhurtas, and they're for event timing. So if you have just a very short event timing situation, maybe you have a post you want to post or an announcement you want to make, or even a date that's already set and you just want to understand it a little better, like you didn't really get to choose your time on a schedule, or the time that you have this big surgery or something and you just want to understand it. This is perfect for those kind of things. So you can look at my different offerings on my site, radhahomeastrology.com. And I'm going to leave you with just the full Bagalamukhi mantra. I'm gonna read it here. And also just some resources for Bagalamukhi and all of the Das Mahavidyas. I really began my journey through just receiving them. They came to me in a very potent and powerful way. But when I needed to kind of find out more information and learn who they were, and why was I holding this Morti, this statue? Why did it come to me? Why did she come to me in this form, this manyfold form? And I was led to a really amazing practitioner of Tantra and just a wisdom keeper of the feminine. And her name is Laura Amazone. So if you haven't ever heard of her, you can look her up. She has a book on Durga that goes into a lot of the other goddesses as well. And she works with the Das Mahavidyas. She works with the Ashtamatrikas. She works with a lot of the different esoteric goddesses. And also, of course, David Frawley wrote a book that's very easy to just kind of reference the mantras and the basic elements of these different wisdom goddesses if you're interested. So I'm going to read a mantra from that right now because I don't have Bagalamukhi embedded in me in quite the same way as some of the other ones. And we can leave with that. So you can take a moment if you feel and close your eyes and just breathe in and exhale. And just imagine this beautiful woman on this throne of gold, just bedecked in gold and all things yellow and flowers all around her. And really stare at that beautiful face with this one-pointed vision that she offers us, where we can really move away from all the other distractions and just sit in this silence. Om Hrim Bagalamukhi Sarvadustanam Bakam Mukham Padam Stambaya Jivam Kilaya Buddhim Vinashaya Hrim Om Swaha. Thank you, Bagalamukhi.